You're listening to the Inside Syracuse Basketball podcast presented by Kraus Health, the exclusive healthcare partner of Syracuse Athletics.
Well, welcome back to another edition of the Inside Syracuse Basketball podcast. I know it's been a while. The Thanksgiving holidays took me out of the loop for a few, and they sent Donna Ditota to Hawaii, where she covered the orange out there in the Maui Invitational. And after Syracuse's win upon its return, the win over LSU on Tuesday night at the Dome, I thought it was a good opportunity for to invite Donna back, and we sit down and we have a little bit of chat about the state of Syracuse basketball. So Donna, welcome back. Good to see you.
Thank you, Mike. It's good to see you too.
Yeah, you're. This is always funny. Like you run into this. I know I do too. It's like people go when you go to Hawaii or Maui or someplace, and you come back and you go, "How come you're not tan?"
I'm a little tiny bit tan.
Yeah,
Not too
it's hard to get tanned inside an arena, right?
Yeah, it's hard to get tan inside a gym. True.
So we got to see Syracuse back on the mainland on Tuesday night at the Dome. Big win over LSU, 80-57. A lot of things looked good. What was the biggest difference that you saw in Syracuse's play against LSU compared to the games out in Hawaii? Especially, and we're really talking about the games against Tennessee and Gonzaga. I'm throwing Chaminade out.
I would say there's two things. One, they made shots. They made some threes, and it was really big in that game yesterday. It broke the game open. Those three straight Chris Bell threes, or he had three in a certain period of time. That broke the game open. So they made some threes, and I think they guarded better. And I think that I guess now it's going to be three things. And I think they rebounded a little bit better.
They did.
So both of those things are important. I mean, I think that offense is only going to take you so far in these games, but you have to be able to guard teams. Like look at a team like Miami. They're a really good offensive team. They can't guard anybody, and they got crushed by Kentucky last night. So there's going to be games where you're not going to be able to score, and you need to be able to rely on your defense. And I think their defense was better yesterday.
It was better. Yeah, I don't know how good LSU is going to be. I mean, obviously last year was a tough year for them.
Yeah.
Matt McMahon, the second-year head coach of the Tigers, he's added a bunch of guys through the portal. Some of those guys were off to good starts. We'll get to a couple of them. But yeah, it's for me, it's kind of hard to gauge just what we saw on Tuesday night, except it was good.
Yeah. I mean, LSU shooting 2 of 22 from three was not ideal, obviously, for them. And I don't know that they'll be 2 for 22 anymore this season, but I mean, some of those shots were not even close to going in. So that's obviously a big problem for them. Although again, I don't, one game does not make a season. So, but it was good for Syracuse that they were 2 for 22.
One of the things you mentioned, the big difference that you saw was rebounding. And Syracuse got crushed on the boards by both Gonzaga and Tennessee, gave up a ton of second chance points. LSU early on Tuesday was beating Syracuse on the boards too.
They were.
And then suddenly it shifted. Syracuse ends up having the advantage on the boards by the end of the game. And that's an LSU team that started a 7-foot center, a 6'10" power forward, and a 6'6" fifth-year senior at small forward, a man.
Yeah.
So I don't know how good LSU is going to be, but I think they're a tough team to rebound against, and it was Syracuse's best rebounding game in a long time.
Yeah, I tracked rebounds during the game just to see how the progression is, and it was amazing that they were so much better at it in the second half. And for what reason, I don't know. LSU missed a lot of shots, missed a lot of long threes, and generally speaking, those rebounds are easier to get from an offensive perspective. But Syracuse got a lot of those rebounds, a lot of those long rebounds, and which helped them get out and transition a little bit. And I don't know how good of a rebounding team the Syracuse team is going to be, but I think they made an effort in the second half yesterday to really get on the boards, and it was helpful, obviously.
I've got one kind of wild out there theory on the rebounding, especially on the long threes when you have a lot of missed threes, is that when Syracuse is playing zone, if they're in scramble mode and they're having and a guy get ready to shoot and you fly at him, they were always like flying out at a guy, and generally the defender goes past the shooter. The ball's missed, long rebound. The Syracuse player is now well out of position. At least one of the 5 guys on the floor is well out of position. Your main rebounders are under the basket. The opposing team gets the long rebounds. You're playing man-to-man. Hopefully you're not always flying past your defender. If you're guarding your guy and you're in front of him, you then turn And whether you box out or not, at least you're between him and the basket, right? And you get more long rebound. I don't know if it's really true or not, but I'm watching that this year. I'm going to watch that.
Yeah, rebounding is a funny thing. I mean, Brent and I talked about this at the last podcast, and he and I did after a game. There's a lot of things that go into it. It's not just not just effort, not trying to go get the ball. A lot of it is the ball goes up, and you have to figure out where the ball's going to come down. Where the miss is going to be, and you have to get to that spot before the other player gets to that spot.
The
And
Dennis Rodman theory of rebounding.
yeah, I mean, you have to get to the spot first, and if there's a guy there, you got to get in front of him. So there's a lot that goes into it, and I don't know precisely why Syracuse was better at it yesterday, and why they got incrementally better as the game progressed. I wonder if there was some frustration with LSU because I just couldn't make anything.
No, you're right about that. Yeah, sometimes early in the game, you're in it, you're hustling a little bit more. Yeah, you got a little bit more energy, and then when you're all of a sudden you're down 20 with 10 minutes to go,
yeah, it's
things
hard.
aren't going
It's
as
harder.
well.
Yeah,
It is hard.
it's harder to be
Also,
that
you know what?
enthusiastic about it.
The Syracuse defense got better. And
Yeah.
I think they forced LSU not into just miss threes. They forced some bad shots. And it's not usual that a bad shot results in an offensive rebound. I mean, yeah, every once in a while, but you make a team take a tough contested shot, I think that's going to help you on the boards. I'm not sure. Who knows?
Yeah, I think Adrian said it, I think right yesterday. The guards need to keep their guys in front of them, and when they don't, it just creates all kinds of chaos for the scramble mode for guys to recover, and cover for the guards who get beat off the dribble. So I think they were better yesterday at containing the ball handler and containing dribble penetration, and I think that's why they were better just defensively yesterday.
As you were saying that, I looked down because I had the box score from last night. And to just amplify your point there, you're right about the guards rebounding. Judah Mintz and JJ Starling, both with 5 rebounds each last night. That's 10 rebounds from your backcourt is a lot.
Yeah, JJ has been a pretty solid rebounder the whole season. I think he's averaging quite around 5 rebounds a game, which is really good. And Judah, depending on where he is, I mean, sometimes if he's not going to get very many offensive rebounds, but depending on where he is, and he could come back a little bit to get the ball, to get a defensive rebound. Sometimes the ball just lands where he is, But yeah, I think the guards have to rebound, and I think we should talk about Justin Taylor, who I consider to be a guard who's playing power forward this season, but he has really done a nice job on the boards. He's really helped them rebounding, and he gets a ton of defensive rebounds, which is what they really need.
Yeah, listen, if anybody out there had Justin Taylor as the team's leading rebounder through
Right.
even the first 7 games of the year, kudos to you.
Right.
I certainly didn't. But yeah, because he's having to play power forward. When I think
Right.
before the season, we thought he probably would have gotten more time at the 2 than the 4.
Yeah, it's at the 3. I mean, I thought he and Chris were gonna split some time at the 3,
Yeah.
and I don't know if he would get how much time he would get at the 2, but I certainly did not think he's going to be playing the 4.
Not the 4. But
So,
he's
yeah.
doing that because of Benny Williams' situation. Benny played. Yeah, you were out there in Hawaii
Yeah.
when Benny came off the early suspension and played in game 1 against Tennessee, and then the next day he doesn't play against Gonzaga, plays against Chaminade. He's not playing a lot. He didn't play a lot against LSU. He didn't play well. What do you make of what's going on with Benny? And can they get him back to where they need him to be honest?
Well, he hasn't played that much, and so it's hard to sort of get too much into a flow or to get too much into the rhythm of the team. I mean, he's missed 3 games, right? 3 regular season games, and it's hard. It's hard to sort of get yourself acclimated, to get yourself used to your teammates and where they want the ball and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I get he's practicing, but it's different when you're playing a game against other teams. I think they need him. They need him. And they need him to rebound. They need him to defend, and he can score. And so I think they need him to do all those things, but I think we're just going to have to wait and see, just see, how he progresses as the season progresses.
Yeah, I think one of the signs of Benny just, even when he's playing now in his limited minutes as they're trying to get him going, the sign that he is still just out of sync or out of the flow is he's taking way too many of his shots from 3-point range than 2s. Now, I don't mind him taking a 3 every now and again because he can make them, but he's 6'9", and he's stronger than he was last year. That's what we heard throughout the preseason. and he was going to finish at the basket. I think we'll know Benny's really back when we see him inside more, fighting it up, mixing it up inside with guys like Malik Brown,
Yeah, I mean, I do think that you're right. He has taken a lot of threes. I mean, although, you know, I think he can make that shot, and it does help space the floor if teams have to guard him out there. But I think probably, he needs to not take as many threes and try to get inside a little bit better and try to get himself better position. But the way they play offense, the way their offense is set up, they got four guys on the perimeter and one guy in the middle, and it's not going to be him. He's not going to be the guy on the short corner for the most part. He's going to be the guy in the perimeter. So, he's going to have to either drive it from out there or shoot it. Or they're going to have to try, or they're going to try to have to get him on a back door or something like that. But he's not going to be a guy who's going to be in the post to start their offense. So, but I think he's good in transition too. I mean, if they can get out in transition a little bit, he can finish in transition. I'm having patience with Benny because I think Benny can really help them. I do.
Oh yeah.
I just think it's been a sort of unfortunate the series of events that have happened that he's not really been able to get sort of involved as much in the game as he is. I think he would like, and probably, everybody would like.
Sure. I think it can still happen. People are asking me, oh, Benny, give it time, folks. It's a long, long season. And
a very long season.
Obviously, Adrian Autry is working Benny through some stuff, right? Going back to the LSU game, one of the things that helped break that game open, because it was a 5-point game at half.
Yeah.
Early in the second half, Syracuse got two of LSU's most important players out of the game because of foul trouble. The big 7-foot center, Will Baker, he picks up an early foul in the second half, and their point guard, who I'm not saying he's one of their best players yet, but he is, Mike Williams is an important player because of the position he's playing out there, and he gets fouls number 3 and 4 early on. I think the foul trouble, for one, starts with the way Juna Mintz can get in the lane and draw fouls. And he does it again last time. What was he, 13 of 15 from the foul line?
Yeah, and the thing with Judah is I looked it up last night. He's the third the third best player in the country at drawing fouls at this point in the season.
Right.
And
yes.
he it's which is pretty remarkable. And he's either going to get to the line, or he's going to get teams in foul trouble, opposing teams in foul trouble. And so just his ability to put it on the floor and to get by his primary defender he's been able to do that his whole career at Syracuse. And now the thing comes from Judah is like, what happens after that? What happens after he breaks down his defender, gets in the lane? And does he try to score it? Does he try to pass it? Those are the next level decisions that he has to make. And that the determining factor is where he goes once he leaves college.
It's interesting. I looked up that same fouls drawn, fouls created stat that you did, only not as recently as you. And when I did, he was in the top 4 among players from Power 6 conferences. He was probably like around 10th or 11th in the country at the time. So he wasn't as high. But of the other guys from the Power 6 conferences, they were all 7-footers.
Yeah, interesting. So
it was Zach Edey of Purdue,
yeah.
Donovan Clingan of UConn, and the big kid from Arizona. And 6'3" Juna Mintz,
right.
which is amazing when you think of it, because big guys draw fouls because you're inside, you're being guarded physically and all that stuff. But if Juna can keep doing that, he's going to not only break down some defenses, he's going to send more opposing players to the bench with foul trouble.
Right, and I think that's it's not a more critical thing, but that's a pretty critical thing. You get other team in foul trouble. And Syracuse has been pretty good about not fouling. They've been pretty good. I mean, usually in man defense, you foul more than you do in zone defense, but they've been pretty good. They haven't really had a ton of foul trouble over these last games that they've played.
I want to ask you about what your thoughts on the Syracuse's center platoon. Naheem McLeod and Malik Brown basically are just splitting time. It's at the center position. They're two completely different types of guys playing center, but especially with that LSU game, they look great together. You can tell me a little bit more maybe about how they looked against some of the bigs out in Hawaii.
Yeah, I think that Adrian was talking after the Chaminade game when they really tried to get the ball inside to Naheem in that game. They really wanted to try to establish him inside. I mean, he was so much taller than everybody who was trying to guard him in that game. And I think it's important for a lot of reasons. I mean, that's another guy that teams have to pay attention to, another guy that teams have to guard, and he is 7'4", I mean, if you figure out how to get him like a couple of lobs a game, or figure out how to get him the ball inside when he has position in the post. He doesn't post up real strong, though he doesn't really get in there and sit down and try and call for the ball that much. So I'm not sure how much posting up he'll do, but I think he's decently nimble around the basket. I mean, yesterday one thing he did is put it on the floor when he caught it in there, and then of course, bad things happen because that's what happens when you're 7'4" and you put the ball on the floor.
Yeah.
But so that's one of the things he has to guard against. But I think that they could use him a little bit more offensively to try to get him the ball a little bit more in there. And defensively, I mean, he's obviously a presence. I mean, he blocks a ton of shots, and I thought he had more blocks than three yesterday. Didn't seem like that to you, that he had more blocks
Yes.
than three?
I thought he had 4 or 5.
I did too. So he blocks shots in there, and he also intimidates teams. They'll back it out a little bit if they see him in there. And Malik is a different kind of defender. Malik is the kind of defender. He's a very crafty, kind of can steal the ball, pokes the ball away. He
Yes.
gets position. He gets good position on guys. He's a lot shorter than Naheem is. I think he's 6'8" or 6'9", right?
I think he's listed at 6'8".
Yeah.
I want to say 6'9" all the time, but he's listed at 6'8", I think.
Yeah, so he's much shorter, but he's a big, broad-shouldered young man who's going to get bigger and broader shouldered, and it's going to help himself in that way going down the road. But and I think Malik is a better rebounder. He hasn't been great on the boards this season, but I think he can be really good on the boards. He was good yesterday. Like, we both thought he had 10. Like, here's a weird thing that happens.
He
Syracuse
did have
fans.
10 on the scoreboard.
Right. Here's a weird thing that happens, Syracuse fans, is that like the stats that we see during the game sometimes are not the stats that actually appear on the box score after. Like, this box score is often different than the things we see, the running box scores that we see during the game. So I think we both thought he had 10 rebounds yesterday. And I think he can really get after it on the glass. And he's very mobile. He's a really smart player. And I think they could also utilize him a little bit better too. Trying to score a little bit in there better. He's smaller, so it's harder to get him in a situation where they drop it off to him. But they've done that this year, and he's converted those shots.
And if his man leaves him to go guard Judah or a JJ who's driving in, he is great at catching that little mini soft lob.
Yeah, he catches everything. That's
very athletic. He can get up. He can catch. Great hands.
He's got great hands. Yeah. And the fact that he saw that pass from Quadir yesterday, caught it and finished it was pretty amazing.
Yeah. I mean, that was like when you see a catcher expecting a curveball, but here comes the fastball instead.
Right.
He still manages to catch it.
Yeah.
How he did that. Yeah. Quadir's got to tone it down maybe just a titch.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. I don't want him to. I mean, I know it probably makes coaches crazy and makes fans crazy, but I kind of love it. I love his creativity. I love his ability. Love his confidence to try to make a play like that. And I mean, I'm assuming so they both are on this the quote unquote second team for Syracuse. So I'm assuming he does that a lot in practice. So maybe that's why Malik is so used to catching that pass. He probably does it in practice, and he's like, oh, whenever he's got the ball, you never know. I could get the ball.
So before we end up here, I want to look ahead. It's going to be kind of tricky as we look ahead to Syracuse's next game Saturday, a conference game at Virginia. A little tricky because we're recording this ahead of Virginia's game on Wednesday night against number 15 Texas A&M.
Right.
So whatever happens on Wednesday night, folks, in that game, it doesn't count for now. So we look at this Virginia team. Once again, it's one of the folks that subscribed to our colleague Brent Axe's text insider subscription text thing had a great comment about Virginia last night. Said, "Here comes your root canal." It is true. Playing Virginia is like going through dental surgery. They're giving up like 53 points a game. So, how do you think this Syracuse team's going to be able to do going down to Charlottesville on Saturday? Can they score enough to beat the Cavaliers?
Part of that is pace. They're the slowest paced team in the conference. So part of the reason that teams don't score that much against them is because there's not as many possessions in those games. So that's number one. Number two is they're just a really good, and they're a very physical defensive team too. And I asked a couple guys yesterday. I asked Chris Bell and I asked Judah whether playing against Tennessee, which plays a little bit different kind of defense, but they're both very physical defenses.
Tennessee's very physical. Yes.
Tennessee's very physical, and I think Virginia is too. But they both said, they both said, well, we've played Virginia before, so we kind of know how they play. So we're not really we're not really basing it on what we saw against Tennessee.
Mm.
We're basing it more on, we played them twice last year, and we kind of know how they play. And they're very good defensively, but I think that Syracuse has been able to get in the lane against them. They pack it in, but somehow they've been able to sort of get in there. And so whether or not they can get penetration against that defense is going to be important, because they do pack it in and they do make you shoot threes and or make you beat them from the perimeter or make you beat them on a tough two. And they're not a great scoring team, but they can be a very efficient. They pass the ball pretty well. They can be pretty efficient on offense. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't think they're invincible. They're very good at home though.
Mm.
And it's going to be they're tough at home. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I'm interested in seeing how Kihei Clark does against Syracuse. Oh, hold on. Wait a minute. This just in. Kihei Clark no longer plays for Virginia.
Yeah, it does seem like a lifetime. I will say this, when I was at ACC Media Day, somebody asked Judah Mintz like who the toughest guy he played against last year was, who the toughest defender he played against last year was, and he said it was Reese Beekman. And he's going up against Reese Beekman in Virginia this weekend, and let's see what happens. I mean, Judah had, Adrian called it his best game of his career, and I think he was right. He just played so well. He finished so well yesterday against LSU. Can he obviously he's not going to be that great every game. There's going to be times he doesn't make those shots, and there's going to be times that teams defend him a little bit better. But he's obviously a key to Syracuse's team, and I think Syracuse does have to make three. They have to make some shots. Again, they have to take good shots in this game, because they're not going to get a lot of them, and they have to make them.
You know what's remarkable about Virginia and the way they play defense is somehow they don't send teams to the free throw line.
Yeah,
they don't foul. I looked it up.
They're very disciplined. I mean, they're just a really disciplined team.
I think they know not to reach, because whenever official sees that motion, that reach, it's like an automatic whistle. So they keep their hands back. Can Judah draw as many fouls as he's been drawing? Can he get to the line? It has been important for Syracuse. That'll be definitely something to watch on Saturday.
Yeah, and again, if he does get by his first guy and gets into the lane, I mean, they're going to collapse on him, and then he has to either figure out, is he going to take a tough shot or is he going to kick it out? It's going to be interesting to see. Although, his 3-point shooting has gotten so much better this year. He's shooting it with confidence, and he's making a high. I mean, I know he's only taken like 18 threes. It's not a huge sample set, but he's made 42% of his shots from the 3-point line this year in those limited attempts, and teams are going to have to guard him out there this year.
Yeah, you know what? Most of those attempts, he's taking good 3-point.
He is.
He's taking the open looks.
Because they're giving him an open look. They don't want him to blow by him,
That's partly it. And partly sometimes, he's getting a pass from a JJ Starling.
Yeah.
I forget who found him in the corner last night, the corner down where we sit.
Right.
When he made a 3 down there and then high-fived a couple fans on the way back up the court.
Thing. Yeah, on the way on the court. Yeah.
But yeah, you start getting a little bit better on your shot, and your percentage is going to go up if you take good open looks.
Yeah.
He's not taking the threes that Buddy Boeheim, or Elijah Hughes used to have to take, the guarded ones, right? You don't have to. Don't do it. If they're guarding Judah Mintz that tightly, he'll go by him.
Right.
We'll see. All right. Conference opener on Saturday in Charlottesville at noon. Donna and I will both be there.
You will.
Along with our trusty colleague, photographer extraordinaire Dennis Nett. We can't end a podcast and talk about us covering the game without mentioning Nettie.
Right.
Right?
Right. I thought you were gonna reach for some kind of great photo he had taken and showed it to the world, but I guess that's not gonna happen.
I probably could. Geez, I mean, as many great photos as Dennis has taken over the years, there's probably a couple here on the wall. But yeah, we're gonna have Dennis down there, folks. We'll be there to cover it. One of us will be joining Brent Axe on his post-game podcast. So thanks for listening here today, and we'll see you again soon on the Inside Syracuse Basketball podcast.
Join us next time for the Inside Syracuse Basketball podcast, presented by Crouse Health, the exclusive healthcare partner for Syracuse Athletics.